Welcome back, everyone, to the Successful Events Podcast. Today's episode, I first have to clarify this and state this because I am not a lawyer. I am not an attorney. I am giving you no legal advice in this episode. I want to put that up front and preface that because we're going to talk about contracts and negotiation, but specifically related to events and just some things I recommend that I would just think about when you're going through your event planning and hosting process. So please keep that in mind. I am not a lawyer. I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is just me with some recommendations for your event planning process that you need to consider when it comes to contracts and negotiation. So without further ado, let's get started with today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Successful Events Podcast, your go-to podcast for hosting impactful, purpose-driven events. I'm your host, Kat Roten, an event strategist and logistics expert, here to help you plan and execute events with confidence. You'll hear from top industry experts sharing the latest trends, live coaching calls with myself and fellow community members, and of course, my personal favorite, strategies to help you stay true to your vision without the burnout while you're event planning. But here's the thing, your event isn't just about the details. It's a time to celebrate your hard work, to show up fully in your energy at your event, and to lead with confidence. That's why we focus on self-care, intentionality, and making sure your event aligns with your purpose so it doesn't just look good, but it also feels good for you too. Let's simplify the process and make it unforgettable. Well, welcome back, everyone. I appreciate you sitting and listening into the very brief intro. And this is going to be a shorter episode, but I just feel like I really need to preface some things that I have heard from other individuals that they also have heard from me, that contracts are so important. And I think across the board, if you talk to anybody, they are important in business, they are important in life. But not many people talk about the importance of having contracts and even the importance of negotiating when you are planning your own event. And that's what we're going to touch on today. And it's going to be very short and sweet because I just want you to basically get across from this episode. My goal for you is that you are going to start using contracts in your event planning process. So contracts specifically are used in many different ways. Many times what I recommend, I personally do when it comes to my own events or when I'm working with my clients is we have our own set of like contract templates that we have, and then we plug and play the information for that specific person that the contract's for. What I say for contracts is you need to be using them with anyone you're working with. So this is a vendor, which typically your vendors are going to be providing you their own probably contracts that they use within their business. But I wouldn't tell you to read through the details, make sure there's a clause in there about if they cancel on you, if you have to cancel or reschedule, and pay attention to those details. And then obviously if they don't have a contract, I would recommend you put something together to be able to provide them with some of those details as well. Because what happens if you have to change the event dates or you have to cancel it due to an unforeseen emergency? What if they have to cancel because of something? And I've had this happen to multiple clients that they have to cancel last minute or within a week. What are the protocols that happen with this? I also recommend you have contracts with your sponsors because this lays out specifically if they are a financial sponsor, what is the financial exchange that's happening and what are the services that you're providing them for that sponsorship. It also, if you're doing in kind, can also explicitly state in that what are the services they are providing you or products they're providing you in exchange for the services, products you're providing them. And again, when it comes to in kind, it's very similar usually to a vendor, and about probably 75% of the time, those in-kind sponsors are also vendors. And I really would get clear on, again, your cancellation policy if you're rescheduling on your side and on their side as well. And it's so important so that you are not scrambling 24, 48 hours prior to the event if something were to happen. Obviously, things happen unexpectedly, but what is going to be, like my recommendation is with sponsors, is if it's an in-kind sponsorship and they have to cancel on you, then they have to pay the financial side of it if it's within 60 days of the event, let's say, or 30 days of the event, because at that point you have already been promoting and marketing them. They also should be able to pay that financial piece so that you can then pay someone to actually fill in for that spot, that service, that product that they were providing for you. So that goes with vendors, sponsors, speakers. Yes. If you are a speaker yourself, I would make sure every time you end up going and speaking on a stage, that there is a contract that you have signed that is specifically stating kind of what you're doing, what you need to do, what they're covering for you, what they're paying you potentially, or whatever the exchange is. Also, if you're bringing in speakers for your event, you need to have contracts for them. In these contracts, this is where I say you need to get really specific on, okay, what is the financial exchange, if there's any, or what are like the services, again, that you're exchanging? What are their requirements? And this is something I could do a whole separate episode on that I will do one day. But as a speaker, in my eyes, I have been hired on to speak. I also have hired people on to speak for events, and I see this expectation that those speakers need to be sharing about the event. They need to be helping promote it, giving them an affiliate link or opportunity if they want to, but there should be a minimum requirement of maybe one email and a social media post at minimum that they're doing to help promote the event. They're not just coming to the event, doing their thing and leaving. There's a piece to it. You might be also providing them some extra perks to be on the stage, especially if maybe you're not paying them, so you're offering them a speaker reel or some clips and video clips and photos from being on the stage. Just the recommendations that I like to provide because I don't think we think about this all the time. So vendors, sponsors, speakers. Those are the three main areas that I recommend that you have contracts for. Have templates ready. I'm not going to tell you the legal side of any of this, of what needs to be included in the contract fully. That is something that you really need to go and speak with your own lawyer attorney to be able to discuss what are the different terms and terminologies and certain processes and things that need to be on there, because there's so much that goes into that. I just wanted to focus on today the 3 different people that you need to be providing contracts to, or you should be getting contracts from, and what are some of the things in those contracts that you need to be handling and speaking to make sure you're covered on your own end. I do need to hit on one more thing actually with speakers, is also giving them deadlines on when they have the presentation to you, when they need to be having a meeting with you to go through the flow of their presentation and the event itself, all those things. Same thing you could do with a sponsor as well. If there's specific things that you need from sponsors like ads or logos, marketing materials, again, set dates and put that in the contract for them. I highly recommend having all of that ready ahead of time, or have it ready by the time that you find the sponsor and you're sending them the contract. Lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about negotiating, because I think a lot of us think about negotiating is for these larger, bigger contracts that you're going for, or when you're in the corporate world. But even as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, in your own life, I recommend using negotiation, especially around events, because a lot of times the first proposal, the first contract that you get from somebody is not going to be exactly what it's going to be. Push back on some things, push back on a couple of, it could be the financial numbers, it could be some of the specifics about regulations or policies, especially when you're working with maybe a venue or you're working with a catering company. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So ask the questions, get clarification. The things that are coming to my head right now as I'm sharing this with you is like with a venue, there are sometimes requirements that you have to use the people on their vendor list. Well, on their preferred vendor list. Maybe you can ask them about using someone specifically that you're looking to partner with and bring in or collaborate with. If you don't ask, it's a definite no. It could be things as simple as how to set up the rooms. It could be the amount that they quote you and it's just not within your budget. Be honest, be open. Don't over communicate, but do communicate what you need to and what you can to get them to understand. Negotiation, this is also the time where you can present to them, especially when you're working with your vendors, present to them your sponsorship or collaboration opportunities as well, to see if that will help buffer the cost, to save you financially money, potentially get a bonus, like a bonus perk when you're working with that vendor. It can look so many different ways. So don't be afraid to negotiate. Always have a contract and make sure that your contracts are looked at, or you have an idea from a lawyer and attorney. Because again, I am not giving you legal advice. This is me just providing you my recommendations as an event planner, as an event host, what I have been doing with many of my clients and in my community, of the importance of having a contract in place. And being open to negotiations. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love to hear if you learned anything, if you took anything away. I actually dive into so much more of this stuff within the event host community where I've actually created some templates that you can use yourself. I also have just been there to help guide on some recommendations on like the services that you could offer for sponsors and speakers and getting clear on those deadlines, some of those things that maybe you don't fully understand. I love diving into. So shoot me a DM if you have any questions. Go check out the event host community if that's of any interest to you. And I look forward to seeing you all next time on the Successful Events podcast. Have an amazing day. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't miss our weekly newsletter, The Successful Events Insider. It's the best way to stay connected so you never miss an episode, you hear special announcements, or behind-the-scenes updates. Each week, I take what we cover here on the podcast, and I'll dive even a little bit deeper and give you a little bit more behind the scenes of what is going on in my life and the events world. So join us inside the Successful Events Insider. There's a link below in the show notes. Get the support, the strategies, and the inspiration you need to make your next event your best one yet.